Hello, hello, beautiful people. My name is Jasmine, and this is my co host.
Sam Blake.
Hello,
Actually, it
everyone.
says
And
Sam Neptune
together,
on there. Sorry.
oh, it's okay. And together, we're the Unpresentable Parts podcast, the Eve edition, the Better Half edition. And our podcast really, we are targeting Black and Brown women. We want to talk about our perspectives, things that we go through in and out of the church that really make us who we are, the different obstacles that we face. And so we hope that you enjoy it and have we can have some laughs and that we can have a good time. So the month of March is Women's Month, and so in honor of that, we've been talking about women in the Bible, and that we can relate to them, see ourselves through them, and that there are some awesome examples of faith, of perseverance from the different women we've covered. Right? We looked at Eve last time, and so this time we will look at Sarah. And but before we get there, the topic that we want to discuss is called the burnout.
Mm,
So
burnout.
that's how I feel every time. Burnt out, overwhelmed, like I know it all
Mhm.
too well. So with the burnout, we are going to discuss just the different layers of what that means to us, right? Being Christians, being women, being wives, being mothers, friends, professionals, and all the other added layers is being Black. And what do these things, how do they contribute to our burnout? And
Yeah.
we've been feeling burnt out lately, right,
Yep.
Sam?
Yep.
So,
Yep.
yes, it's a big thing that women, I mean, and men go through, but we're going to talk about us today. Um, so, before we get into that, our question that we love to answer, that we love to ask each other is, what is an unpresentable part about you, either today or the past week since we last got together? So,
Oh,
Sam, would you like to
Lord.
go first or?
Girl. Okay. So I think that that one's a big one for me this week, in particular, this past week and this week. Since the last time we talked, I had just an interaction where I don't remember if I shared this last time. It was a very stressful interaction, and uh, within within hours of that interaction, I broke out in hives
Mm,
on my face, my neck,
yeah.
my chest.
Hmm.
I was itchy for a couple days, taking, Allegra hives, and
Mm,
it just unbearable. And listen, let's just keep it real, right? Your face. So I'm trying not to
yeah.
scratch my face. I'm rubbing Vaseline on there so
Wow.
I can, like rub it so I don't scratch it. But I went to the
Yeah.
doctor and thinking, oh, there must be something seriously wrong with me. Like, what is this? And
Mm,
is this the second time this has happened? No,
wow.
not knowing. I didn't eat anything different, didn't touch any. And so, in questioning me, sitting, she goes, she goes, there are only two things that can really point to this here. She goes, it's
Mm,
either a virus or stress.
mm,
And so she's like, since it's happened before in the same fashion, I think we could lean towards stress. Are you having a lot of stress in your
wow.
life currently? And I
Mm,
was just, there's this level of embarrassment. You're just kind of like, girl, I'm a minister. I'm helping women. And I'm coming out here in hives because I'm internalizing stress. And
mhm,
all the things come to your head like, oh, I got to take it to God, and you know do not be anxious about anything, but in everything with prayer and supplication make your request known to God. I'm like, and I'm internalizing, and my
mhm,
body keeps keeping score. Girl,
mhm,
I got like the Big Dipper on the right side of my face. Never had teenage acne. Got a big old zit on my
mhm,
chin. And so this thing, literally, the highs were becoming welts and then becoming little blisters.
Wow.
So anyway, have not been able to, can't put any concealer on, can't put anything on my face. It's just, look, CeraVe and
Wow.
Vaseline. And so it's just,
Wow.
it just, something about when you can't, you want to look presentable and it just doesn't feel, you don't feel, I don't feel presentable. So I
Mhm.
appreciate my beautiful friend, my kind friend, my, all those things. It means a whole lot right now. So anyway, that's where I am with unpresentable parts.
Oh my gosh, it is right. It's hard to hide when it's out there. Like, okay, it's noticeable. Sam's coming up in church or showing up at the grocery store looking a little different.
Mm,
It is. I get that.
mhm.
So, in a similar vein, when it talks about appearance, an unpresentable part for me has been, I don't know if you if you remember these I think they're still currently running them, but like the Mucinex commercials where you see that big green glob of mucus
Yeah.
that's like cartoon eyes, right?
Yeah.
That's when I look in the mirror, sometimes that's what I feel like I see. I'm like this big
Mhm.
glob and
Mhm.
I'm like feeling so unattractive. I'm
Mm.
feeling with my personal like health and weight loss journey has been all
Mm.
over the place.
Mm.
Um, and sometimes I'm like, how come I can't, just be disciplined and stuff how I used to? Like,
Mm.
and I've just been feeling honestly really ugly.
Mhm.
And I hate that I'm totally like my own worst critic. And you take yourself with you wherever you go. So if you look in the
Girl,
mirror,
yes.
I'm like, oh my gosh, my face is getting rounder and rounder. Oh my gosh. I feel like my
Mm.
body's getting rounder and round. What's going on?
Mhm.
Or I don't know. And yeah, I've just been feeling down about that. And I even tried to talk to my husband because I am that person that likes that affirmation, but I
Mhm.
do understand the boundary in that. Like, I'm like, he can tell
Mhm.
me I'm beautiful all day, but
Mhm.
I need to believe it for myself and I need to
Yeah.
believe on how God sees me, um, which can be hard, but I know that that's where I feel like my conviction needs to be and not only rely on what other people think, um, which is what I've done for a large part of my life.
Mm.
So it's like I want to be able to look at me and feel like, you know, I look good, even if
Mm.
I'm bumming it out a little bit. Like I feel like I shouldn't feel disgusted, you know.
Mm.
In that saying, people will say, well, if you don't like what you see, kind of fix it,
Mhm.
which I totally get. So it's not even like I'm like, how come 2 years ago when I lost 50 pounds, how come I just can't get back into that? Or even
Mm.
I did that again years before. I'm like, what's going on?
Mm.
Am I emotionally eating? Just trying to get to the root of stuff.
Mm.
And it just
Mhm.
really kills my vibe, Sam. I just feel
Mhm.
low. I'm like, I don't like to dress up. That's why when we do have certain special events, even if it's a baby shower, I'm putting on some lipstick. I'm
Mhm.
trying to make myself feel like good
Mm.
when I'm going. So yeah, I've been feeling like wah wah.
Okay. Well, girl, I'm gonna pray for you. You pray for me. We gonna get through this. But you look good. You look good.
Thank you. Thank you.
You're welcome. I'm glad you took
um,
that compliment and didn't put a butt in there.
I appreciate it. I
Mhm.
appreciate it. I do. Um, all right, so let's get into it. So the
Whew,
first thing we'll
okay.
discuss is the burnout. So, okay, so Sam, what does a burnout mean to you, and how do you know that you are burned out? And I like to put a
Okay.
T sometimes at the end of that. I like to say burnt
Yes,
out.
girl.
Yes.
Girl. Black toast. Yeah. I think the way it feels for me, it just feels like it's like a complete mental, physical, emotional exhaustion.
Mm,
I'm just so tired.
yeah.
I'm just so tired. And it just, I was telling this to my husband. I am not a negative person. In
Mm-hmm.
fact, I am I am a cup half full, you know, what's on the other side? Let's go.
Yeah.
Why not? I'm not the why, I'm the why not person.
Mm,
And I know that I have been in that slow progression, and sometimes feels rapid progression, but slow progression of burnout, because I don't find enjoyment in the things I generally find enjoyment in.
mm,
I my bandwidth. I was saying to a friend recently that I normally operate on a very high level, and I
mm-hmm,
feel like over the past few years, I've gone to a level I don't know this level. I am trying to
mm,
adapt, I'm so desperately wanting to go back up to my normal opera, what is it,
right.
modus operandi, but I it's just that exhaustion. It just feels it's exhausting to just be the me I used to be.
Mm-hmm,
I don't know if that makes sense, but I just that's just what it is. I'm
yeah,
fighting negativity constantly, and it's discouraging because it's so far from just my DNA.
right. Yeah. Um, I agree with that. When you are feeling exhausted, right? Mentally, physically, spiritually, you're just, maybe you're on 20% in all areas, you're like, I don't know how to get maybe even less, right? Maybe it's five,
Mhm.
um, of how you're feeling. So, um, I get that. I think for me, how I know that I'm burnt out is that the self-care aspects and even honestly the daily grooming aspects, I feel like start dipping off. It's like, all
Mm.
right, Jasmine, when's the last time you showered?
Mhm. Mhm.
When's the last time you brushed your teeth? When's the like
Mhm.
first like because I'm taking care of, your daughter or the house or whatever responsibilities, things I'm volunteering for, all these other things become so much more important or that I give
Mhm.
more attention to. And then me, I just start dipping off. My hair's looking crazy. I'm dressing like, you know, right, like I'm struggling out here. And um yeah, it's so I honestly started noticing that last year of like, wow,
Mm.
this is a way that my anxiety shows up when I'm feeling like I just can't handle things. So
Mhm.
instead of taking care of these daily things that are healthy for me to do, right? And would be normal to do, my mind is just focused on other things. And so that's how I know. I'm like, all right, Jasmine, I'm stressed, I'm overwhelmed, I'm getting like I can't even take care of myself. Then I
Mhm.
know that that's an issue and I'm starting to feel burnt out. And Um, I'm just a bit more sensitive in my feelings too when I'm a bit
Mhm.
burnt out. Sometimes my reaction is I don't even care, so I'm not even gonna respond. And then other times it'll be I'm just more in my feelings about it, and I'm like, why am I being so snappy? Like, back up,
Mm.
Jasmine. Like,
Yeah.
calm down. And so I notice those things to make me think, all right, something's got to change because I can't live like this.
Yeah.
Um,
No, that's good, Jazz. I think the one thing I want to add to knowing that I'm in that, not necessarily I'm past the stress, because it could just be stress sometimes. I
mhm,
definitely am. I'm past the stress stage. It is definitely burnout. Is
mm,
I am someone who likes everything to have a place.
mm.
I know where my
Okay.
keys are. They hang
Mhm.
up in this spot. I know where everything is. And I just haven't cared so much. My car is a
Mm,
mess.
mm,
I'm not tripping about the laundry that hasn't been put up. There's been two baskets sitting in my living room. It's gone on for a few weeks. And I walk
same.
past it. I'm not on my boys to get it. I don't care. I'm gonna take care of the basics.
Mhm.
Make sure if someone comes to my house, there's not too much dirt in the corner. But
Yes.
I just don't have it in me to
Uh,
do the extra cleaning, extra everything.
yes.
And I hate saying that. I do, but
Yeah.
it's just kind of where I'm at.
Yeah. Yeah. That is very true too. I have some laundry that I tell you what, it's there. It's a part of the house decor now. I'm like, all right, I need to get this up. But yeah, you
Look,
just don't have the energy.
yeah, yeah. I thought this is first world problems because we got clothes sitting around and we still got clothes to wear. So a
Mm, come on, Sam.
whole other
Preach.
lesson, girl. A whole other
Okay,
lesson.
you right about that because people who
Hmm.
know me, I do like to keep a clean and orderly living space. I
Hmm.
feel like I know the outside world can be so crazy. So my house, I feel like I need some order so I can think. So, as much as you can, right? Especially you
Yeah.
understand you're maybe a bit more lenient when you have kids in there. So
Hmm.
but I'm on it. So when things do start to get out of whack, I'm like, oh. So what are scriptures or passages that come to your mind about the burnout? Um, and to give certain things like biblical titles. What are some things that like for example, I think of being burnt out, maybe the Mary and Martha situation, the passage about that, or different passages maybe that talk about anxiety. Is there anything, not necessarily what to do because of it, but that maybe discuss it? Like you could see examples of, all right,
Girl, yes, I got you. This is the
okay.
one that I can feel like is my. I'm so grateful that God put it in the Bible
Mm,
and didn't just show the highs right here,
mm,
but that I can relate.
mm,
I can sit in that
mm.
and I can go. It's Elijah. It's Elijah, the prophet Elijah
Okay.
in
Yes.
First Kings, right? For people listening, if you want to go back and read it, it's First Kings 18:4 to 19:18. Just like start there and there. But here you've got Elijah. He's had this major victory. It's amazing. And I can relate to that. Before the pandemic, church was going great. Things were moving. Oh my
Hmm.
goodness. Just people loved me. Yay! Right? I was just this amazing person. And just victory after victory and success and
Mm,
all these different things are brewing and it's wonderful on the surface, right? You don't realize what's going on
mm,
underneath. Pandemic's coming. People got issues with you. They really don't like you think they do.
mm,
Um,
mm.
all that stuff. And so
Okay.
you have Elijah here, and he's had all these victories. He's had the altar victory where he pours water around the altar and all the wood, wets it up, and then God burns it. It's like, whoa, God is with him,
Mhm.
right? And then he
Right.
prays for rain, and then it rains. I mean, come on, dude,
Hmm.
you are killing it. Look how courageous you are. Look how spiritual you are that God will listen to you.
Mm.
And then he finds out he got a contract on his life. Jezebel put a contract on his life,
Whew.
right? She's like,
I've
"Look,
never
guys,
heard
this
it like
thing."
that.
This is what
But
she
that's so true.
did. She John Wicked him. Like
Yes.
everybody's gonna be after you, dude. There's a contract.
Hmm.
And he is terrified, right? But I go, I have judged that. Like seriously, you did all this. God did all this for you, and you gonna be running from Jezebel? Like God can't strike her down? And I'm like, no,
Hmm.
but I am. I am. This is who I am right now.
Mm.
I completely relate to Elijah. He was unable to control his emotions. He was unable to control his emotions. He
Yeah.
was depressed. Like, dude was depressed. He was like, yo,
Yeah.
I did all this for God? For real? I just did all this and
Mm.
you gonna let this woman come for my neck?
Right.
Like he gonna let me hang out to dry that she can say that and be okay with that? Like, God, am I not your prophet? And then he
Mm.
isolates. I totally get that. I feel all those things. God, I did all this. I've been serving for
Mm.
you. I've been giving to people, putting my own needs behind to do for you. And you gonna
Yeah.
let them come at me like this? You gonna let them come at my neck, my family, my livelihood,
Wow.
everything? I feel that. I get that. And I'm so grateful for that example. And I feel it so deeply. Like my stomach hurts talking about it because that's I feel that
Yeah.
mess. And then he's scared. He's scared, and eventually he's like, "Yo, I'd rather just die. Can I just die under this tree?"
Hmm.
And I
Hmm.
just, so that everything can just go away. And as much as I hate to admit it, I felt that. Maybe if I'm not
Yeah.
here. things are better off, you know?
Mm, yeah.
And yeah, I don't want to not be here, but I've thought
Right.
it, you
Mhm.
know, I felt
Yeah.
it in those moments. And
Me too.
it's kind of like,
Mhm.
yeah, you're like, who is this man? Is he the same man? Which is what I feel about him. Who I look in the mirror, who are you, girl? Like, where's this
Mhm. Mhm.
negativity from? You know, how I was telling you a story before we taped about my friend naming my pimples and telling me, oh, you gonna let this let him let him do this to your face too? And I'm like, oh my gosh, I this is the isolation and the
Mm.
all this stuff what it has led to for me internalizing stress in my body and realizing, okay, what was the deal with what was the deal with Elijah? He was afraid.
Mhm.
No, I'm afraid.
Yeah.
No, and I'm so grateful that God showed me that he's, you know, and then he also felt like everybody's against me, which so wasn't the truth. Like his victim
Wow.
mentality, which again I kind of have been a victim.
Right.
Everybody's against me. Nobody likes me, which is so untrue because later on, when you read, it says that there were 7,000 people,
Mm.
Israelites that were reserved serving
Wow.
God, right? There were
Yeah.
other 7,000. So he's feeling like everybody's against me. But it's the self pity,
Wow.
all of that. And so in the burnout, I look at Elijah and I go, if Elijah, God's man, who
Mm.
God took away in a chariot of fire, could go through this, and God allowed me to experience this through the word. He put it there so I can have an example and also see him come out of that. Then you know, okay, okay,
Yeah.
I can get through this. God is with me.
Right.
I hope that was not
Right.
too much. But that's
No,
what
that's great.
yeah.
No, that's great. Yep, there are multiple, just thinking about it, I think about, Moses and how
Mm,
just look, I'm trying to help these people out and get to point A to point B. All right. People out here
mm-hmm,
acting a fool, trying to just, do
mm-hmm,
what's right. Like, and just thinking of probably his burnout, right? And things that
mm-hmm.
and how, the burnout can make you do some stupid stuff sometimes.
Yes, strike that rock.
Right, right. And you're just so overwhelmed, and then it's like, all right, how do I then try to give people a role, right? I can't have this all on me. You deal with
Mhm.
these matters, you deal with this, and just I can't I can't even imagine, right? Just so long ago and being the that shepherd really for
Mm.
God's people. That's a lot of like pressure, and it's
Mhm.
a lot of the first time things are happening. It's a lot.
Mhm.
And so I would be
Yeah.
stressed out too, or like, hey, I can't speak, Aaron, please go up here. I don't know. Like it's just a lot. So that's what comes to
Yeah.
mind too when I think of like just you get burned out. And
Mhm.
then you end up missing out on your blessing, right? If
Girl,
if
okay.
if you can't turn it around, sometimes, you know. hmm
Yeah, I agree. I agree.
Yeah, I think of um, even when I think of the women when we're thinking New Testament and taking care of Jesus and the disciples, and although
Mm.
it doesn't go into detail about their lives, but I can only envision, right, of how much you have to do to prepare the meals, but make sure that they have all the things that they need so they can go out on their mission, and like, amen, like what a blessing. And I think when we can read some of those passages, some of those sentences in the you for the scriptures, you're thinking, wow, that's amazing how they devote
Mm.
their lives to do this. And I'm like, good Lord, would I want to do that? Because you're
Yeah.
living your life on the edge too.
Girl,
It's
right? I so appreciate you bringing that up, Jazz, because we do hear about the guys in the
hmm
New Testament. We hear about them all the
right,
time. You know,
right,
Peter was so stressed out, he lied and went ahead and You're like, I don't know
Yeah.
this man. He cussing. He like, look, I don't know who
Right.
this is. I ain't trying to
Right.
be all up in, you got Judas offing himself, because of his
Mhm.
own stress and his response to that and his own self
Right.
pity and isolation. But you're right. The women were there asking for the body. The women
Mm.
were there preparing the body. They were there doing all the meals when, and
Right.
funding
That's true. Yep.
funding the work. And
Yep.
so I think you're right. It's like, what were they feeling? Because they
Right.
didn't have a voice.
Mm. Yeah. Yeah. I feel like we
Their
can only
burnout.
imagine what they
Yeah.
could go through.
Yeah.
Yeah.
No, good stuff. I appreciate that. I
Amen.
do have some scriptures that do help me.
Okay, yes, yes.
Yeah,
Let's
that
talk about
helped
that.
me in that time. And the thing for anyone listening, I think what I've had to do, I started doing this thing called breath prayer. And
Okay.
I had the book with me and I left it at home, so I don't want to misquote it. I'll have to maybe put it on the website. But basically, you read a scripture and you breathe in part of the scripture and then
Okay.
hold it 4 seconds and breathe out the rest of the scripture.
Mm,
And some of the
okay.
scriptures that come to mind for me, kind of like, and I'll do it right here. It's Isaiah 40:29. I breathe in, he gives strength to the weary, hold it, and breathe out and increases the power of the weak. And it's sometimes I
Um,
do it in my head so that I
yeah.
don't waste any breath speaking. But it's Isaiah
Mm,
49. He gives strength to the weary and increases the power of the weak.
mm,
John 16:33. In the world you will have trouble, but take
mm.
heart. I have overcome the world.
Amen.
Jeremiah 31:25. I will refresh the weary and satisfy the faint. This is one of my favorites. This is probably the first psalm I ever memorized as a kid because my mom had us memorize our psalms. So Psalm 121, 1 through 2, it
Okay.
says, I lift my, I was about to, girl, I was about to say it in the King James Version because that's how I learned it. So let me read it in the regular, in the NIV.
Amen.
I lift my eyes up to the mountains. Where does my help come from? My help
Mm,
comes from the Lord, the maker of heaven and
amen.
earth. Yes. And finally, another one is Psalm 73:26. My flesh and my heart may fail, but God is the strength of my heart and my
Mm,
portion forever. So
wow.
those are, put them on index cards. I got them in my car, girl. I just like literally it's my very breath. Those are the things, those are some of the scriptures that
Wow.
have sustained me during that time.
Wow. Um, I'm over here trying to find, I'm gonna paraphrase it,
Hmm.
because, oh, wait, I think I just found it. So here's two scriptures that I think just help me to, I don't know, maybe acknowledge or see what I am doing,
Hmm.
um, for the burnout. Like, all right, so I think of Psalm 127. I love this. It says, "Unless the Lord builds a house, the
Mm,
builders labor in vain." Right? Unless the Lord watches over the city, the guards stand watch in vain.
mm,
Right? So I'm like, all right, Jasmine, no, I'm gonna feel so burnt out. I love how Paul talks about multiple times too about I'm laboring with Christ's strength. I'm laboring with, you
yes.
know, and I'm like, man, because of God's grace, because all these things that help empower him. And I am like, Miss Independent, I will will
Hmm.
it together. And
Hmm.
anytime I do that, and I do that for so long, I do get burnt out and I'm
Hmm.
trying to do everything. And so that kind of helps me. Like, all right, Jasmine, what am I doing? Pause, let God build the house. And then I think of John 15 about when Jesus says, remain in the vine, right? You have to remain in me. This is how you will produce
Mhm.
fruit. So I think about that. All right, I need to be connected to the source. I need to be connected to God. And another one just popped in my head, but I'm forgetting it.
Yeah.
Dognatic. But
No, no, that's good because Jazz, one of the things you said is I have to muster up the strength.
yes.
I've got to do it. That's what I feel. And I don't want us to gloss over that because that comes
Mm,
from a place because of the stories we've been told and the stories we tell
mm,
ourselves. And as
mm,
Black women, society says no one's coming for you.
Mm.
No one cares for you.
Wow.
When you think of missing persons, our faces are not plastered on CNN or Fox News or wherever. It's not us they're looking for.
Mm.
And I think it's important and we've been told this, no
Yeah.
one's coming for you.
Yeah.
You got to take care
That's
of
true.
yourself. And I think that's important because I think coming into our Christian faith, it is stories we've been told, and these are ingrained in us. And we constantly, there's an extra layer of having to go to Christ. So
Yeah.
it's not just, oh, I got to rely on Christ. No, it's who the dying to self. It's so much deeper because the message we get from society continually reminds us that no one is
Yeah.
coming for us, that we
Yes.
don't matter. And
Yes.
so there's an extra layer to get through that makes the burnout even harder. So
Right.
I didn't want to lose that. I wanted to hit on that as you were. I know we'll expand on it later as you brought that up.
Yeah. No, I appreciate that because you are you are right. And it's like you have to do it yourself or whatever. Like this is just life, and
Mhm.
no one's crying for you. You go,
Mhm.
you have to do these things. Um,
Mhm.
so yeah, but those scriptures, and thank you for the ones that you shared too, for me to go back and look on and make sure. I love Psalm 121. Okay, I love it, and I'm like,
Mhm.
I need, again, going back to the source, going back to Christ. But I will it myself as much as I can, and it gets me into trouble. It does. Um,
Hmm.
so the next thing that we want to talk about is, let's talk about Sarah, right?
Girl.
We
Mm.
Yes, let's step in her shoes, right? And I
Whew.
think
Yeah.
one thing sometimes that I can honestly wish the Bible would have in there is like, okay, what's the thought that's going through everybody's mind? Because
Mm.
sometimes you might just read the action, and sometimes, right, it will share that, but especially like we talked about for the women, what were these women thinking? This is
Mm.
so we can even relate even more. So I kind of feel
Mhm.
like, I mean, they're human, we're human. So I feel pretty confident, even if we make an assumption. I
Yeah.
do think, I'm like, all right, there. I'm sure she's had to have these feelings going through. So Sam, would you mind to kind of take it away about maybe Sarah and things that she faced and why you think she was burnt out or could have been burnt out by her life situations?
Yeah, honestly, I actually took some notes to talk about her because I think there's just so much. I can go off in a tangent. And I just think here's this woman. Okay. I do want to say something. Give credit where credit is due.
Hmm.
You ever heard the song Father Abraham?
Yes.
There is a whole stinking song for
Yes.
Father Abraham had many sons and a great, wonderful.
Right.
But was Sarah not part of creating and carrying
That's
that
true.
son?
How he get them sons?
How he got them sons? Specifically, it started with Isaac. It
Hmm.
started, God gave this dream and this vision and this promise, and it was to Abraham, but it was also to Sarah.
Yeah.
And so I just want to give credit where credit is due because we vilify this woman much like we have done Eve.
Hmm. Hmm.
We focus on her disparities and
Hmm.
her insecurities, right? I love what you
Right.
said. And yeah, this is conjecture on our part, but I think as women, we can kind of, you feel many of the same things emotionally. We're the same
Right.
people. The emotions and the challenges we go through are quite similar because we are
Hmm.
in that space. And so I just think this woman moved to an unknown land. Abraham was like, "We going." And what choice does she have, right? She's
Right.
going. She was voluntold.
Hmm.
She's voluntold that
Hmm.
we're going. And then she's barren. In this whole
Yeah.
thing, in a from the very beginning, God said, "Be fruitful and multiply."
Hmm.
And then even in the curse, he didn't say you're not going to be able to be fruitful and multiply. He just said, "Oh,
Mhm.
that is going to hurt
Mm.
because what that must going to hurt now.
Right.
That's part of your consequence. It's going to hurt." So she can even experience the hurt.
Wow. Yeah.
It's
Mm.
she probably feels double cursed,
Right.
right? So here's this woman, and she is just put in these countless situations. At a certain point, her husband sells her. And I mean, we'll talk about it, but he sells her to a
Goodness.
pharaoh to protect himself. We give Abraham all these passes, and
Mhm.
we take these glaring microscope over Sarah. And
Yeah.
so I do want to say that. So leading to this woman's burnout, I think one of the first things is the infertility and the social pressure.
Mm.
and
Yeah.
and this is a big one because one, all these years she's unable to conceive a child,
Yeah.
and as a woman in that culture, that is the very thing she needs to have sons to
Mhm.
protect her.
Yeah.
That's part of her value. That's also part
Mhm.
of her protection, which is
Yeah.
why it was so hard when we read about Ruth and Naomi, when Naomi lost all her sons and her husband. I
Mm.
mean,
Mm.
you're in a very
Vulnerable.
vulnerable state. Yeah,
Mhm.
you are in the position of becoming a beggar, a prostitute, along those lines, to protect your
Wow.
to provide. So here's this
Mhm.
woman, she's infertile. Uh she essentially, it's a failure. It's a failure in her
Mhm.
culture. So the
Yeah.
pressure and the stress of that, there's a stigma associated with it. Like, you must be cursed. What
Yeah.
is this curse? What have you done?
Right.
And then so that personal anguish every time, every month, there's the
Mm.
reminder that I cannot
Mm.
do the one thing that I am only that's what I am good for. That's
Wow.
what gives me value. And I just cannot imagine the incredible amount of stress
Mhm.
and sadness
Right.
for like 90 years. Let's just say her childbearing
Mhm.
years 13. So let's take away 10 of those years. Okay, let's say
Yeah.
10, let's take away 10, 11, 12 of those years. But for the majority of her life, that stress, watching women around
Yeah.
her, as someone who at one point was considered to be infertile, and I watched so
Mhm.
many of my friends just go. I remember a friend of mine saying, "Oh, we should try together." And I'm 20, what I was, I think 27 or 28 years old. I was like, "Whoa,
Mhm.
yay, let's do that." Only for my friend to be pregnant within months, takes me out to
Mm.
lunch to tell me she's pregnant because she knows I'm not. And I am
Oh.
sitting there with her. No, in a very kind way. She wanted
Oh,
me to,
okay.
yeah, because she was trying to be sensitive to
Okay.
tell me that she is. Um, and I remember sitting there thinking, and I didn't know the language at the time, but holding both spaces, super happy
Mhm.
for my friend,
Right.
but inside dying because I
Right.
want this so bad. And I cannot imagine how Sarah probably felt in her
Sure.
when the women went into the red tent,
Mm.
and some women didn't have to go in there because they were
Mm.
pregnant, and every month she's in that tent.
Wow. Yes.
So
And
I
that
just
their servant, right, is
okay,
able to have children.
okay,
And
okay.
yeah, it just adds that layer.
Yep, because she follows Abraham wherever he wants her to go.
Mhm.
So she has her. You talk about the things that she's going through. It leads her there. And please cut me off and pull in. I'm just going to pull out all the things that are there, and
Go
we
for it.
can,
Go for it.
yeah. So she has the infertility and social pressure. Then she has the journey of faith, right, where she follows Abraham, unknown land. She leaves everything that's familiar behind.
Mm.
So if
Yeah.
her
It's a
mama
big one.
and her daddy are still there, she's leaving them. She's leaving her
Right.
friends, the ones maybe she
Yeah.
felt like she could talk to about this thing, this
Right.
very, painful thing that she's going through. Uh, her security, everything, she's leaving it. And she's going to be in this, we just moving from place to place. Abraham
Yeah.
doing his thing. I just, And then she has to deal with the whole Hagar and Ishmael thing, right? So we're talking about
Right.
her. We'll talk it through, but that's one of the things that she had to go through. She had to give her
Right.
maidservant, which is what you've been talking about, to be a secondary wife, to have the child
Yeah.
that she wants to have, but
Mhm.
she has to have somebody else conceive that child for her. Now she didn't have to. We're not going to talk about all that. God had made a
Right.
promise. It was trusting in God.
Right.
But when you're all in your feelings, you're
Yeah.
like, God ain't gonna do jack. He'll leave me out here to
Right.
dry. I'm gonna have to take it into my
Right.
own hands. That's where you go. Let's just be honest. And
Right.
we beat up on this woman for that. But how often
Mhm.
do we do that ourselves? You
Oh,
know,
yes. Mhm.
I mean,
Like
I
I
know.
think of I was thinking how just even for her, it wasn't just like it's a oh we tried for 1 month and it didn't work. We tried for two
Mm,
months, but when I feel like for us women, when we try to again hang in there, but after if it's going on years, right, and all those, it really does wear us down.
yes,
And you start acting out, you start acting a little funky and making decisions
girl,
that you might regret because
girl.
of how you're feeling. So yeah, that's what I was just thinking. Like it wasn't like, oh, we tried this for a few weeks, what, but years of her going through this.
Hmm.
So it makes me feel for her. Like, and I would probably react the same. Like, God, okay, this is your promise. What happened? We supposed to be, we're all these kids, you know.
Yes,
Um. So.
they're supposed to number the skies. I think of a lot of single women in the faith who,
Mm,
go through their sometimes go through and miss out on their childbearing years
right. Yes.
because they
Yes.
want to do it God's way, and they look around and they see people compromising all the time. And I see some women who compromise. I mean,
Hmm.
you don't just choose a man who loves God. You choose a man that don't even believe in God.
Yes.
You know what I'm
We can't.
saying? I'm
Yeah.
like,
Uh-huh.
now I used to judge that, and I'm not saying it's correct or it's right, but being able to put yourself in those shoes to go, look,
Yes.
I don't agree with what you've done. I don't agree with why you're doing it. But that you got to contend with God with that. But I'm not going to judge it either.
Right.
I, I'm going to hold that space and be here for you,
Right.
which is what I don't think we afford Sarah in
Yeah,
this.
that's true.
We don't sit in it with her. We tend to sit in it with Hagar, but we don't sit
Yeah.
in it with Sarah to realize
Mm.
this woman was burnt out and stressed out and felt like the promise wasn't real for her. And
Right.
God's promises, it's like, wait a minute, He's gonna be the father of many nations, but nothing's happening here. We
Mhm.
talk about, oh, she laughed. Well, don't you laugh
Yeah.
sometimes in disbelief? Like, yeah, right. Like, okay. That's how I felt when I got pregnant.
Mm.
I will never
Wow.
forget it. One, I was crazy that week, didn't know I was pregnant. I was losing my mind. My husband was like, he was like, "What is wrong with this woman?" My cousin was like, "Sam, I think you should go take a pregnancy test." I was like, "Girl, please no." I
Mhm.
was I'm like, the doctor already told me I'm infertile. And I did. I
Wow.
finally late that evening went to get a pregnancy test, came back, and I was in absolute disbelief when it came back. I got the digital one. So I didn't even get the
Wow.
one with
Yes.
two lines. I got the digital one that said
Yes.
pregnant, and
Wow.
I was in complete disbelief. I did laugh. I went, like I remember that. Like, wait, what?
Wow.
Wait, what? That literally was my reaction.
Yeah.
And I think, I get it, Sarai. I get it. You're like, okay, great if it happens, but okay, okay, all right,
Right.
let's see this. But
Yes.
we condemn this woman and not realize, no,
Right.
she was just tired.
Yes. Uh-huh. We think, oh, what? She doesn't have faith, right? This laugh, she's
Yes.
faithless. How could she do that? And just like,
Hmm.
yeah, look at her with contempt. And I'm like, how would you feel? Again, people lived longer back then, but just thinking, how
Hmm.
would you feel? You're 90 years old and you get the news. You wouldn't laugh too? I'll
Mm.
be like, what in the world? Like, this is
Hmm.
possible? This is actually happening? All the years of you wondering, all the stuff you didn't put Hagar through, everything. You just, like, must be one big joke. Like, where's the cameras? Okay, you got me. Like,
Hmm. Mhm.
Yeah.
Yeah. I even think that joy of Isaac, the birth of Isaac, how exhausting that might have been too.
Yeah.
We might overlook that to think all those years of burnout, then you
Mm.
actually have the child of
Yes.
promise. But you still gotta deal with the drama of the decision you made from before, because now you got the
Right.
other child
That's
and the
very
circumstance
true.
have that drama. So you're happy, but you're exhausted and you're stuck
Yes.
in a mess you
Right.
made for yourself. And
Mm.
so I just think again, so much sympathy needs to be had for this woman who, yes, she
Right.
made some bad choices, but her society also
Mhm.
put a lot of pressure on her like it does us.
Right.
Like it does us.
Right.
I just she had so much stress, she had so much
Yeah.
pressure. And then I just think at times didn't feel protected by her own husband
Mm.
because
I
he looked out
see.
for himself in one of the hardest situations when they went to Egypt. He was like, "Yo, tell him
Right.
you're my sister so that they don't kill me."
Girl, my hair would have been falling out. Like, I don't know how women did this stuff, okay? Like, this is too much. Um,
Yeah.
and I was reading too of how I think Sarah had passed. She had died at the age of 127. So I was thinking
Mm.
if she started to have the kids at 90, like she wasn't even able to see her kids as they got older, right? Like
Mm.
her kids weren't even that old. And so I'm thinking, oh man, goodness gracious. Like she finally didn't have the kids and kids aren't even 50 yet or whatever, right? Like you can't
Yeah.
even see that part too. So that did make me feel like, man, but you know, it's life.
Yeah.
Mhm.
No, I really appreciate with Sarah, there's so much to say and so much. I hope what we're saying here will spark a just interest in you listening to go back and read
Yeah.
about her and put some uh, personality to her. Put your how would you
Mm,
in this situation
right.
empathize with her
Right.
versus judging her. To say, as we talked about Eve last time, not judging, but put yourself in that situation because I think we need to acknowledge the emotional and spiritual trials that
Yeah.
this woman faced. And we've got to respect her journey, which is what I want as a woman of color. Acknowledge what I go
Very
through,
true. Yep.
acknowledge my emotional pain, acknowledge my spiritual trials and my emotional trials in this society. Acknowledge it. You may not understand it, but acknowledge it. Respect my journey.
Right.
You don't have to
Right.
agree with my journey, but respect my journey, respect where I have my doubts because of the things that the people that have gone ahead of me and the trials they've faced.
Right.
Respect that
Yeah.
and like stay curious with me. Don't judge me. Stay curious. Seek to
Mm,
understand. That's what we want to do as Sarah. But that's what, as a woman of color in my faith, I want you to seek to understand,
mm,
not
yep.
come in as if you already know what my
Right.
thing is,
Right.
why I feel I'm not. I think, like you said, Jasmine, we're not a monolith, right? Blackness is
Right.
not a monolith.
Right. Yep. And we all have
Individually
those
have our
different
things.
experiences
Yes.
that should be
Yes.
validated even if you cannot understand, you know, it my truth is my truth and this is real. Um, what do you think what does I know I've kind of been hinting at it a bit how sometimes we make these decisions when we are
Mhm.
burnt out, stressed out, we have all this anxiety, whatever. I mean, have you ever done anything where you thought, okay, I'm that maybe either out of regret or maybe that wasn't wise because we just sometimes it can be foolish things or things that causes us to get out of our character a bit, like with Sarah talking to Hagar, go ahead, have this baby for us, or like, I don't know, have you ever made kind of a decision out of your just burnout? And it could be something small and maybe not something as large as clearly Sarah, but you know,
Yeah. No, I think where I really relate to Elijah in my burnout, I am an
hmm
emotional runner.
okay.
If I can run physically, I would run physically. Believe me.
Hmm
But uh No, I'm for real, for real. If I
I
can
believe
physically leave, I'm leaving. But my faith keeps me in my faith and my commitment to God will
you.
keep me here, but I'm not here. I isolate.
Mm,
And so when you say, is there something I've done? Yeah, I haven't addressed things that need to be addressed and I've hidden
yeah.
and just want it to get better. And it only gets worse.
Hmm.
So I think in isolation, I haven't said the things I've needed to say, or I don't say the things I need to say. I don't
Hmm.
address the things in front of me. And for that, I've paid really heavy prices,
Mm,
emotionally, health wise, spiritually, where I've just felt so distant from God. So uh, I could say in
yeah.
my most recent life, it's the isolation and not saying what needs to be said is, I think that's my Achilles heel
Gotcha.
in my burnout. It's not saying the things that need to be said, and I'm learning how to. You said earlier, my feelings get hurt quicker, or that I snappy.
Hmm.
I am now allowing myself to snap,
Mm, I see. I see.
and I am
Feel your feels.
allowing myself to say that hurt,
Hmm.
where because of what I've been taught, nobody cares what you think. Ain't nobody
Hmm.
crying for little black girls.
Hmm.
So you shut it off. I am
Right.
learning to connect those messages and put it under the at the foot of the cross,
Mm,
because the message that
yeah.
nobody cares for little black girls is a lie.
Right.
Jesus cares for little black girls.
Right.
Cares for all of
Absolutely.
us. So I'm learning to put that at the foot of the cross and say, okay, here are my tears because I am hurt. And
Hmm.
so I think, I don't know if that answered your question, Jasmine, but it
Yeah.
was, here's how, what I have done, what I struggle with doing, and how I wrestle back to that cross is lifting my eyes to the hills from where my help comes from,
Hmm.
knowing that He wants to, when I'm weary, wants to give me water and help me in my faintness. So it's just, it is hard though. I'm not going to sit here and say this is an easy thing to do, but it's
Sure.
hard overcoming the stories I tell myself or I repeat.
Yeah. Yeah. Well, thank you for sharing that. Something that I've noticed I've done is that I will shut down too. And the spunky Jasmine you used to see, I'm tired. I'm too tired to smile at you. Okay, I'm not about to act like I'm interested because I'm not. If I don't want to do this, I'm not going. Like I will shut it all down because y'all haven't been listening. Y'all haven't been picking up on my clues or what I've been directly telling y'all.
Mhm.
Oh, oh, I'm gone. Like,
Mhm.
don't ask me to do nothing. I'm not doing this. I'm not doing that. I'm. Mm-mm. And so my husband will probably get more of that energy at home. Like, nah, I'm not doing it. I'm tired. I've been telling y'all, I'm tired. And
Mhm.
now it's like now the angry black woman wants to come out.
Girl. Woo.
Like, oh, y'all been trying me. Now, it's gonna be luck if you buck. All right. Like I'm
Mhm.
tired. And so
Mhm.
that's why I have to like, all right, make sure you know your triggers, you know your cues, you set up your boundaries so it doesn't
Mhm.
get there. But
Mhm.
I've had such a hard time doing that in the past where it's not till you get to that burning, your boiling point, and the water's starting to topple over. You're like, okay, all right, now you're
Yeah.
about to get the Jasmine that, you know, not play no games with you. But so I've
Mhm.
had to learn again how to have that agency for myself, how to say no, how to do your boundaries. Like,
Mhm.
yeah, so
Yeah, I appreciate you saying that, and even the whole the angry the well the angry black woman. But here's the thing, because we have grown up in the myth of the strong black woman,
right.
and that is a myth.
Oh, pause for me real quick, Sam.
Hmm.
So sorry, Tim, my laptop's about to die.
Yeah, that myth, whew, it's so dangerous
Mm,
because when we talked about Eve, we talked about just the overarching thing about her, right? She messed it up for everybody. And that's
yeah.
how That's a lens that she's viewed through. We talk
Right.
about Sarah, and the thing that we see is she was barren, and she had, she had an attitude with Hagar,
Hmm.
and we see that part of it, and she laughed at the prom. So we look at her in this one lens,
Yeah.
and I think that's a myth, because though yes, there's some truth to that,
Right.
right? There's some truth to Eve messing up. There's some truth to Sarah and the decision she made and the condition that
Right.
she faced for many years of her life with the infertility. And is there a truth to Black women being strong? Yes, there's this truth to that, because through generations we've had to be,
Right.
because our men were being broken.
Yeah.
They were being broken through slavery. And there was a strength that needs to be had. We watched our ancestors had to provide and be, because their husbands were being sold off, or they couldn't even
Yeah.
marry. When I say husbands, so I think there is something about, yes, Black women have had to be strong, and
Yeah.
they have been carrying their families and the world on their backs to this day,
Hmm.
right?
Yep.
Let's just keep it real, to this day. So
Very
yes,
true.
but we don't have to give in to the myth of the Black woman, the strong Black woman.
Mm. Yeah.
We look at our sisters in the Bible and we see how they were, one, they were marginalized women,
Hmm.
marginalized.
Yeah.
They're marginalized and they're women. We get to look at them and look at their journey and see that they were still able to have faith. They were still
Hmm.
able to believe in this God.
Right.
We can do
Yeah.
that. We don't have to be
Amen.
faithless because we've been marginalized. We don't have to turn on God. It is He that gives us the strength and the ability to not have to live in the myth of the strong Black woman.
Hmm.
And
Right.
so I think you said, people are, when you mentioned earlier, yeah, I get to the point where I'm like, enough. Now they're going to
Hmm.
get the angry Black woman, but it never has to get to that. It
Right.
doesn't. If we take ourselves off the hook and not feel like we have to be the strong Black woman. No, I can be fragile. No,
Hmm.
please. I want to be taken care
Very
of.
true.
No,
Yeah.
please. Go ahead and change that tire. No, please. Go ahead and pay for that. No, please. Go
Right.
ahead and do this. I don't have to give in to, I don't have to live under this anymore. And I refuse
Hmm.
to, actually. That is
Right.
where I'm calling our sisters everywhere, stop thinking and believing the myth of the strong Black woman. Stop
Hmm.
believing the myth that has been said about our women in the Bible. See their strength and see their
Mm.
value, because God values women.
Yes.
He values women. He says we are important, and He values little Black girls.
Yes.
And your inner child, that little Black girl inside of you, that inner child, that little brown girl inside of you, that inner child is valued
Hmm.
by God. And so, my call for you today is to stop, take the time to talk to your inner child and
Hmm.
tell her you are for her, and you will go
Mm.
to the cross for her, and you care about her
Wow.
tears, and Jesus cares about her tears. And just like
Hmm.
He was there for Eve and He was there for Sarah, it's
Mm.
particularly for Sarah in a culture that didn't value women, that there, even her husband didn't value her,
Hmm.
and he caved to the culture to look out for himself, and he did. Abraham did look out for himself.
Right.
That God will always look out for us, all women,
Mm.
but
Yeah.
particularly from my lens, the little Black girl.
Yeah.
So,
Yeah. I appreciate that you said that, Sam. I feel like that's speaking to myself. Oh my gosh. This is you. So I feel like as we grow up and how we want to teach our kids, right? All those things we want
mhm,
to pour into them,
mhm,
because of the stuff we've had to go through. And but I love the duality, right? I feel like men are
mhm,
able to have that duality in and out the Bible. and still
Mhm.
be seen as fine, but women can only be like a one shade, one perspective, one whatever. It's like, no,
Mhm.
we are all the things, and it doesn't make us weak. I mean, we're just human, right? We are
Mhm.
strong. We have our times where we are weak. We have our preferences. We have whatever. That just makes us who we are. Um, but we can't have that weight of the world. And I was even thinking generally and how sometimes just all the things that goes on in the world, all the news, all those things add that layer of the burnout for being people of color, for being
Mhm.
Black Americans. You know, you feel
Mhm.
like you also have this weight on you, and that you have to accept the world for just how crooked it is, you know?
Mhm.
And it's like, wow, we're raising our children in a world that's always kind of see them as second. Like, I'm like, God, when is this ever going to, I mean, maybe not even second, fifth, who knows? But like, sometimes I'm like, God, will this ever change, or is it just going to be like this until kingdom comes? Like, I'm like, this, sometimes even thinking of, little Avery, she's only 4, but I'm thinking this is probably not even going to change in her lifetime. And this is just like
Mm.
sad when you think of racism, systemic racism, you think of all these things that just impact our daily lives and impact us as a
Mhm.
community. You do get
Mhm.
burnt out. You don't want to see another news segment about police brutality, right? You don't want to continue to talk about what it means to have to talk with your kids if you get pulled over, or
Mhm.
just anything, how you conduct yourself, right? We have to have laws that talk about for jobs we can wear our hair in its natural state. Like,
Mhm.
what are we living in? It's just
Mhm.
so weird that we can't walk out the door and be us who we naturally are without this judgment in how, although within the church we want to say those things can't penetrate our holy walls, but they
Mhm.
do. And I
They
feel like
do.
our church specifically has seen the past few years that this is what happens when these things don't go acknowledged. You're starting
Yeah.
to see the division. You're starting to see things break apart, um, because we have to address these things. So I do feel like that's just that added layer that's just on our backs, which makes the
Mhm.
burnout even more. Just like we're done, like
Mhm.
I don't know if you have anything you want to say on that piece, kind of before we close it out, Sam.
No, I think, you said it really well, Jazz. It's that this space that we're creating here is, we hope they will open conversations within specifically our tribe, our family of churches, where people can say, yeah, I felt that.
Mm-hmm.
This is real for me. And I want to talk about it and not feel like I am ostracized for it, but that there's a place for me here to be able to
Mm,
say, I love my tribe. I don't always feel accepted or seen by my tribe. And I
yeah.
feel undue pressures that I face in corporate America, I face on my job. And I just want to come here and be able to have a real, honest conversation where I'm not complaining. I'm not complaining.
Mm-hmm.
I just want someone to seek to understand without judgment, and
Mm,
acknowledge, not fix it, acknowledge that it's there.
yes.
So, yeah.
Yes. That's what makes us go crazy, right? When we think,
Yes,
all
ma'am.
right, no, just hear us out. So,
Yes.
amen. So, thanks for joining us for this episode of the Burnout. Um,
Mhm.
and so, if you have any comments, anything you want to share, any scriptures, anything that just talk about this topic, right? We really want to build our community. We want to have support for other people that are out there who are dealing with the burnout as well, and all these different aspects of our lives. So, please visit www.unpresentablepartspod.com. We appreciate you listening. Have a great day. Try not to be burnt out today, ladies. Okay?
Yes.
Set up some boundaries.
Yes.
Okay.
Yes.
All right. Well, we love you guys. Have a good one. Till next time.
Till next time, look forward to hearing time.